Today, the mortgage rates are 5 basis points better right now. I think most of the lenders open probably more like 8 to 10 basis points better, but the basis point for anybody listening is 1/100%. So pretty small movement. And that's kind of how the whole week's been. We're sitting on a couple technical levels. So probably the biggest news that'll come out today is at 1 o'clock. They will release the minutes from the last Fed meeting where they cut by 25 basis points.
Okay.
So depending on what the comments were in that meeting will probably affect the mortgage rates. And I guess it all depends. You know, if they're just kind of like pretty even keeled, it probably won't have much of an effect. If they're really negative on the economy, rates will probably see an improvement. If they're really bullish or positive that the economy is going to be doing well soon or it's still doing well, then that'll probably hurt things. And then there's a 10-year auction at noon as well. So, I'm sorry, that's Eastern time. So that's at 11, and the minutes are released at noon. So we'll see what happens, but it's probably not going to be a huge difference as far as like where the rates go. And then tomorrow, the Fed Chair Powell, he speaks at 7:30 in the morning. And there's a 30-year bond auction tomorrow at noon. And then we have initial jobless claims, which all those things could influence a lot. I would guess it's going to be on the lower end of things. I'm guessing they're not going to want to rock the boat too much, but we'll see what happens. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Yep. It would be interesting. Perfect. So thank you so much for everyone for coming. This is Ida. I'm going to introduce myself because my YouTube account was not on. My name is Ida. I am a local real estate agent in the state of Minnesota. I am a property manager and a real estate agent, and I do residential and commercial as well. Today, as you guys know, that every Wednesday we learn real estate or whatever the subject that we pick on Wednesday in English. So we're trying to help our kids that who born and raised in here that who wants to be an investor, wanted to purchase their house, and they are welcome to come and learn stuff as usual. So I will send the mic to Mr. Nick, because Nick is on the top right now. So I will give him that chance, and welcome, Mr. Nick. We missed you for a couple of weeks, but welcome.
Well, thank you, Ida. It's good to be back with you on Wednesday morning. Like you said, nice and warm outside. So no place we'd rather be. But my name is Nick Jerf. I am a mortgage loan originator in the state of Minnesota. I work with custom-made mortgages, which is mine and my brother's brokerage. So we do all types of home loans just in the state of Minnesota. The relationship we have with Ida is a great one. She is a fantastic real estate agent, and you can take her advice to the bank on everything. Just excited to talk to you guys, and I'll kick it over to Peter.
Yeah, like Nick said, we are with Custom Made Mortgages based out of Minnesota here. Everything we discussed today is for educational purposes only. If you guys want contextualized advice to you specifically, give us a call. But yeah, we're happy to have you guys and excited to go over this with you today.
Perfect. Thank you for coming, for you guys taking your time, between what you guys are doing. So, Peter, I think me and you, we discussed about this thing. Because I'm here every Sunday, and I been talking to a bunch of buyers who has a bunch of stuff who does not have no clue about what they're signing, especially the purchase agreement, the first thing that they do when they put an offer. So with that said, they don't know what is their contingency. especially knowing that the inspection contingency on my side, we learn about that, because a lot of people, they don't know that if they're after they send out their amendment to the seller to fix a certain things after the inspection, and then they don't know that if they have even an expiring time, there is a deadline. And those we talked with our viewers a lot the past 2 weeks. So I wanted to tell you a little bit story, then we can go to jump on actually the financing and the other different ones. So I got a call from a client that is not my client in some other state, that a client who's a buyer, who is in the contract to purchase property. And then she mentioned that to me, that, hey, I have done everything. We sent out the offer and accepted. We did an inspection, and then there is an issue with the roof. And I would like the seller to do that, but the seller decided not to do that. And I don't know what's going on in this and that. So I asked her, like, hey, your how long was your time, for you guys to fix? Was it 7 days, within 7 days, within 2 days, within whatever day? And she goes, I don't know. I'm like, have you reviewed your purchase agreement with your agent? She was like, no. Did you just sign the paperwork for the heck of it? Yes, she did. And and then after I told her, I'm like, I need you to do that and connect with your agent, right? And after she did that, she figured out it was 7 days, and the seller is not gonna fix anything. Not only is not gonna fix anything, they told her that, hey, we gave you already a 3% closing cost. We can take that, and then we can fix the roof if you want to. And the buyer goes like, no, you already agreed with this thing, and I don't want to go that route. And the agent did not even go far to let her know that they're not going to be fixing. She mentioned, but she said she's still negotiating, and that 7 days period expired. So when that happened, the seller is on the driver's seat. Now they can say that, hey, I don't know. I'm not going to touch anything. So then when she kept asking the agent, and the agent told her that, hey, we can't do anything at this point. You're just going to buy it as is. And the buyer, she goes like, no, I don't want to purchase the property that has some roofing issue. So they were back and forth. I think they fought or whatever. And after all the fights, she even connected her broker. Her broker helped her out to make that issue resolve. But the seller says, hey, you did not say anything. You did not cancel it. So I'm going to give you only half of your earnest money. The reason being, even that happened because today we're going to talk about it. The lender heard about it, that the roof has an issue. So the lender is not going to be funding that money. They don't want it to take a risk. So they gave her a denial letter. And that's how she even get the 50% of her, earnest money. And in the meantime, the buyer, she is a fastie. She's a good fighter. She fought and she made the broker to pay the other half because that was not her fault. That was not the buyer's fault. So that's why I wanted to talk about, dissect this contingency for everybody to understand why it's important, we need to know the time. What is the time limit? What are the loan officer's responsibility? And what is my responsibility? What is the title company responsibility? You know, so those are the stuff. So this issue occurred, and the girl already, she just need a break. She said, I need like at least 90 days to recruit myself because she's really stressed and, you know, she never thought that she's going to go through this kind of issue. So I want you guys to help us out to understand what is contingency in your side of business for the buyer.
Yeah, no, that's as you know, Ida, that's kind of a common story, Nick as well, that things come up, and sometimes, and this is where all realtors are not equal. And again, going back to the whole thing that technically realtors, loan officers, it's a sales position because they're dealing with sales. And sometimes they get motivated to try to make the deal happen because that's how they get paid. And I don't know if that's what happened there, or if it was more just somebody who wasn't experienced. Or again, too, like you want your realtor to be able to advocate for you, which sometimes that's uncomfortable. Sometimes realtors don't want to do that because it's, you know, as big as the industry is, you still usually run into the same people. So there's a lot of personal reasons why that could necessarily cause some issues. But getting to the contingency itself, like you mentioned, there's lending contingencies, real estate contingencies, title contingencies. And basically what a contingency is it's a specific condition. That's the definition, basically. It's a specific condition or a clause. Usually you put in the purchase agreement. Well, yeah, you need to put it in writing, saying that this needs to be done or this condition needs to be met prior to closing on the house. And if it's not, then the buyer or the seller, depending on the situation, can walk away without losing their money, like in that situation. But like you were mentioning, the dates first, it being written down is extremely important, because if it's not written down, good luck getting that enforced. Number two, it has to have some sort of date attached to it. Now, it could be the closing date, but now you're kind of playing with things, and it gets a little dangerous. Or like inspection contingency, for example, that's usually not going to be the entire life of the purchase agreement to the end date. They're going to say the first 5 days, 3 days, 7 days, you got to get this done. And like in your story, they didn't hit those deadlines, so all of a sudden they're on the hook for, and they're not, the biggest thing is usually that earnest money, that they're not going to get it back. But as you know, there are situations where people can get sued as well for backing out of a deal if they miss that contingency. And that can be expensive, obviously very stressful. I mean, that's a nightmare situation nobody wants to end up in. As you go look at a house, you like it, you put an offer in, you get accepted, you have that euphoric feeling like, oh my gosh, this is going to be our house, probably a little bit of butterflies, or, oh wait, are we serious about this? That type of thing, which hopefully you have those conversations with your realtor and your loan officer and your spouse if you're married before you put that offer in. So once it gets accepted, you know that this is a decision you wanted to make. It wasn't just something you came up with and you looked at the house like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And that's where, as you mentioned, going over the contract, because it is a contract, it's a legal contract. And that's something I think people miss sometimes, is that it is a legal document that can be enforced in the court. Again, hopefully it never goes there, but that's where those issues can come up, is, people think, oh yeah, we're just going to do this. And it's kind of just like going to the store and buying a pair of shoes, when in reality, there's a lot of legal implications with everything you sign. And that's where your lender, you want to talk to them about the lender contingencies, the realty side or the realtor side, you want to talk about the real estate contingencies, also obviously title. Those are a little bit more straightforward, but definitely you want to understand those. And so you can navigate the situation and avoid a situation like that where you get burned out. Luckily, the broker and, they were able to negotiate something to be able to get her money back. But at the end of the day, like, what did she get out of that? A lot of stress for probably a few weeks. And now she's got to go back and start the process over. And now, if it didn't go well and your realtor didn't do great for you, which again, maybe she did because she kind of saved it by getting her broker involved. But, do you want to continue with that relationship after you went through that stress? Because you're probably going to lose some trust in that realtor that they weren't on top of it as much as they need to be. And that's another thing with you, Ida, is you are one of the most aggressive agents I've ever worked with when it comes to that stuff. And because you understand the implications of it. If this is not met, or if we don't get back to the, if you're on the buy side, if we don't get back to the sellers by this date, or we don't get some sort of extension on the contingency, which you can get, then you're going to be on the hook for it, even if everybody knows about it, even if everybody's talked about it. But again, in writing that, with these legal documents, you get another legal document, everybody signs it, we're extending this, yes, we're going to do this, or whatever the situation is, so that, you're protecting the buyers. And the last thing I'll say about this is, just as a reminder for everybody on here, nobody will advocate for your best interest as much as you will. And that's pretty self-explanatory if you think about it. But don't just blindly trust people because it's stressful or because you're not the expert. Yes, you won't know everything, but that's why you ask questions. That's why your realtor can answer those questions, or your lender or the title company, whoever's involved, and help explain those things, because you're paying everybody involved in the transaction to help you. And, just like if you hired somebody to come work in your yard, and then if they're off doing whatever, playing on their phone, you're going to be like, wait a second, I'm paying you to do this. Or they're supposed to be raking, and they're raking with one hand and they're playing on their phone with the other. That's not what I'm paying you for. I'm paying you to do a good job, focus on this, take it seriously as if, this was your own situation. So, but yeah, advocate for yourself. And if your realtor's doing a good job, or your loan officer, whoever, ask the questions. If they're not, push them a little bit. Like, hey, I'm worried about this. Let them know. And that's, goes back to communication is everything. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Nick, to follow up on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well stated. And I think it's a really good idea to talk on contingencies. Because, like you said, this is a legally binding document, and this is your time and your money. And a lot of times when people are buying a house, you're renting and you're looking to get out of it, or you already own a home, so you're trying to sell your home and buy another one. And if you go through a process and it all blows up, that affects your livelihood. It affects where you live. It affects your wallet. So it's very important stuff. And as you and Ida were talking, I was thinking about a line that you're going to hear every single Wednesday if you watch these lives, and it's interview. Interview people, interview real estate agents, interview loan officers, and sometimes I'm like, do we say this too much? And then I realize you can't say it enough, because, well, first and foremost, this is for anybody in the United States of America, 50 states. So we're only licensed in Minnesota. So a lot of the people that we're talking to are not going to be able to work with us, because that's the easy answer, right? Work with Ida, work with us, and you're going to be taken care of. But that's not reality for everybody. So for us to be able to remind people, you are in control. This is your money. This is your transaction. These are people that are working for you. But when you interview someone at the beginning of the process and you ask them questions specific to the real estate market where you live, whether it is Iowa, whether it is Florida, whether it is Texas, that real estate agent should know certain things that are specific to their market. When you interview a loan officer, the same thing. And if you ever need to know what questions you should ask in an interview, reach out to any one of us, and we will let you know what to ask. But in addition to finding out if this person is going to take the time to explain things to you, if this person is going to do a good job, if this person has the patience required to talk someone through a process, you're also setting the standard. You're going to weed out the bad real estate agents who just want a quick paycheck, and the same with a loan originator. But you're also going to set a standard to say, hey, like, you're going to do a good job for me. And that's important because even good real estate agents can get lazy on some transactions. And to set that standard and say, hey, like, this is the biggest and longest purchase of my life. This is important. And I need someone that's going to represent me well and do a good job. So as you were talking, I was just thinking you got to interview before you blindly sign up with a real estate agent, before you blindly agree to work with a loan originator. So that was my thoughts, yeah.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Yep. Can you guys hear me?
I think you're muted, Ida.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. I think I've been saying interview. When you interview someone, I think as a culture, I think most of people that was in here, most of them, I think, from Ethiopia. So I know it is hard even for us to get interviewed, let alone us interviewing someone, right? But when you hire someone to work for you, your responsibility is that. American, when I get hired by American buyers or sellers, I get interviewed. They wanted to hear your experience, their experience. They wanted to hear how long I've been in this business. Am I a full-time agent? Am I a part-time agent? I am available for them when they need me. They ask every single thing, the area, like, you know, if they're buying property, let's say in St. Paul. And St. Paul, they have a little small neighborhood. Do I know those things, all of them? I don't think so, but I try my best to understand what they need. I interview my buyer and seller, what they want. And every client of mine, they have a different test of property. Some of them, they want it small. They don't care about basement. They just wanted to have this. And some of them, they were like, nope, I need 5-bedroom, that I want to have, 3 full bathroom and 1 half, because I have so many boys in my house, because all of them, they stay in the shower for hours. We know that. We all have boys. So that is the stuff. I'm sorry, I'm not discriminating about girls. I don't have any. So me, I go in and out. So I don't stay in the shower too many hours. And some of them, like, they want like a bigger water heater. Like, they wanted to have the water heater to be in a certain whatever. So every client have a different stuff that they want. So those are the stuff that we interview. I interview my buyers. I have a list of stuff on my board. So the same thing for you guys. What do you want? What you want and need, you have to split it and interview your buyers, your agents. And the same thing with loan officer. I talked to a gentleman yesterday from Kansas City. So he might be here too. And when we were talking about, like, how he can interview his agents, and he already have an agent and he's not happy with that. He actually lost $5,000 in his earnest money. By the way, this contingency stuff, I get called 7-8 people on a consistent basis. So he lost it. So he wants to see what is out there for him. So we talked about a lot of stuff. Actually, we had like an hour, a conversation. What are the stuff that he can take place? So these things, it happens. And that's why you need to know what are those items in the purchase agreement. So one of them it's what? An inspection contingency. On your inspection, you have a certain period of time that you agree. So before you sign your purchase agreement, you ask the agent, hey, what is my an inspection contingency period. And if they said 5 days, you need to know, because you are signing that you agree to do what needs to be done by then. Okay. So usually when I write a purchase agreement for my buyers, when we put an offer, I ask what kind of term they are looking for the sellers. Did they want it to close early? Did they want their, whatever the case that is, let's say they wanted to have their inspection period time like 5 days. I put those, and plus I put what my buyer wants, especially if it is a multiple offer issue time, we do that. Okay. Then Peter and Nick, they just explained to you guys the financial contingency, right? So I wanted to ask you guys a question. When you say financial contingency, what is that included? What is that, like, all this contingency for the buyer not to lose their earnest money, the contingency. And the other one is for them not to get sued, that they can be trying to walk away clearly from the transaction, right? So if it is that, when they say, hey, there is a financial contingency, what is that, how that is going to protect the buyers?
Nick, do you want to take this one, or do you want me to? All right. Yes, so financing contingency basically means that you need to get approved for the loan in order to be held accountable to perform on the contract. So that sounds kind of legal language, but really what that is saying is you need to get approved for the loan. And if you don't, if the lender, let's say your credit score drops, and let's say it goes down to 550, and all of a sudden you don't qualify for the same loan anymore, you can't qualify, and the lender denies you the loan. The sellers, as long as you have that financing contingency in there, which you should by default, unless you talk to your realtor and you guys remove it, which that's a very, usually like cash buyers type of situation. That's usually my understanding. Ida can tell you more about that. But you almost always want a financing contingency because, even if, let's say a week before, and this actually happened with one of the realtors Nick and I know, she had a buyer. She helped him, I think, for like a year or two. It was a while. He looked at a million different houses. They were all over the place. And then he finally found one in his price range that he wanted, all the specifications, everything, put in the offer, got it accepted, super excited. A week and a half before closing, laid off from his job. All of a sudden, no income. So if you didn't have that financing contingency, the lender's not going to approve you for a loan, because one thing with lending is they're expecting your income to continue at the same or higher rate for at least the next 3 years. And so obviously no job, no income, and he wasn't able to find a job overnight. So he lost the house, but the contingency protected his earnest money. Obviously not a situation anybody wants to be in, but if he didn't have that on there, the sellers could have actually sued him and said, hey, you said you're going to buy this. You removed your financing contingency. That's not our problem. You have created damages for us, emotional damages. You wasted our time when we could have sold this property to somebody else. Like, there could be all sorts of things that lawyers can come up with and sue you for. And now you're in this legal battle. You got to go get a lawyer. You're paying for that. You're stressed out. And now it's not even about buying the house anymore. It's just about trying to survive financially because you don't even have a job. So that one is huge. But overall, that financing contingency is there to protect you. It hasn't happened to me, knock on wood, but I know other loan officers who have had things happen where people literally got denied on their loan on the day they closed. Usually those situations is due to the client going out and spending, opening, like one situation I know of, I think it was Ida's with our old partner, Ali. The guy went and bought a very expensive car the morning of the closing. And all of a sudden his debt ratios went way up. you're qualified for the loan. And if I remember that story right, Ida can correct me if I'm wrong, he did not get the house. He literally lost the house.
Yes.
If he had waited till the following day to buy the car, wouldn't have been a problem, because once you close, except in rare situations, I always tell people it's like cement. Once midnight hits, you sign everything. Midnight hits that night, it's cemented. The lender can't come back to you. Again, there might be some rare exceptions to this, but the lender's not going to come back and be like, oh, you bought a car the day after closing, now you're denied. Nope, everything's done. It's filed. Those are legal documents. You're good. But you want to avoid those situations. And again, too, that's when your loan officer, your realtor might mention it to you, but your loan officer is the one who should be reminding you of those things. Don't do this. Don't do this. Make sure you do this. Like, don't switch jobs. Don't cut your hours. Don't, if you're working overtime and you're using that to qualify, don't just stop working overtime and not tell your loan officer. If you want to have a good experience through this whole process, the underlying theme is, again, communication and leaning on the experts around you, your loan officer, your realtor. We're there to guide you. It's like going to a foreign country. You have good guides that know the area, they know the language, they know the customs, everything else. You might be like, wait, that looks totally wrong. But they'll tell you, no, that's how we do things here. That's just the way it is. Okay, now you know that's normal. There might be other things that you think, oh, that's perfectly fine. And they're like, well, we got to stay away from that, danger, whatever. And you would never know that because you don't have that context. So communication's huge. And that's even going back to the interview part. When you interview, communicate, ask the questions. Now, also ask the questions in a way to learn, not to attack, because you want to create a symbiotic relationship where you guys are all working together. But if you can do that, then when these issues do come up, you can navigate them well. You can avoid financial harm for yourself, hopefully lower stress, especially if you have a realtor like Ida who's been doing this for a long time. She's seen many, many, many different situations. She has experience to draw from. She has a good senior leadership team behind her that she can also go to that will help her with the legal side of things and other things like that. And they've been around for a while. So you have a good support system when you go to somebody like that, as opposed to, for example, my cousin, she's more of a distant cousin. We hadn't talked in a while. We're not super close. A few years ago, she reached out and she's like, hey, I'm trying to do this down payment assistance program. The lender I went with recommended this realtor, and she never really interviewed him. She was a little nervous. She just took everybody at their word and just trusted them. And up front, the lender told her everything she wanted to hear, made her feel good about herself. The realtor did the same thing. Oh, trust me, I'm an expert at this. I got this. You can say you're an expert. I mean, like, anybody can say that. Once she started looking at homes, she's a single mom, and he's trying to get her to buy homes with a cracked foundation because he just wanted to get her off his plate. So she buys a house. He's done. He gets paid. On to the next. Did not care about her. Did not care about the situation. If you know anything about cracked foundations, they can be very, very expensive, hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes if it's really bad enough. Because you got to probably move the house. That's a whole nother thing that she did not have the money, the time, or the energy for. And he's sitting there trying to get her to do this. Then she tried to get out of the contract. He wouldn't release her. He wouldn't let her go, which you're supposed to, my understanding at least, I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is if the client says, hey, I really want to get out of this, I don't like this, we have the relationships went bad, or I just don't trust you anymore, or whatever, they're supposed to let you out. Yeah. And he would not. He refused to. Helped her call her management team. They ignored us. It's a very big realty company too. So don't just blindly trust that, hey, this is a big company that's been around forever, so everything's going to be fine. Months of calling. Finally, she threatened to file something with the Attorney General's office. And then the Attorney General's office, and she did, because they still didn't respond. And we were talking to the top guy at that broker. And so she filed a complaint, and the complaint came back and said, hey, while we were reviewing this, he actually had other complaints. He was embezzling money, all these other things. His license is gone. Who knows if he went to jail because he stole like 40 grand. Not a good person, but he was very confident. He sounded like he knew what he was talking about. But once he got her in, again, this is where the sales side of it came in. He's very good at selling her, knew how to read her, knew how to tell her what she wanted to hear, and worked with his lender as well to kind of manipulate the situation. And that's why she had called me. She's like, hey, don't you do this too? Like, this doesn't make sense. They're telling me this. They're telling me ignore that. They're telling me don't worry about this other thing that seems like a really big issue. They told me cracked foundation is not really a big deal. Like, major red flags. And so finally, because that guy got in trouble, the brokerage released her immediately. And then she ended up working with Ida, helped get her a house. Yeah. And that was a couple years ago. But you're paying pretty much the same to any realtor you go to. And a lot of times the sellers do cover the commission. So why would you want to pay roughly the same for a horrible experience and horrible service and lack of expertise when you can get that? You just got to find the right person and you got to weed through it. And that's just life, and nobody's going to come and set you up perfectly on everything. It's going to take work, but if you put it in, it'll be worth it. And you definitely want to do that when it comes to a transaction that this large, is this large. Most people, this is their largest financial transaction of their life. It's also usually one of, if only the only real estate that they buy or sell is through this type of thing. So this is not something to just do on the side and not really pay attention to. Take it seriously. And one thing, this is the last thing I'll say about this, but one thing that drives us nuts just drives us crazy in this industry is there are so many bad actors, loan officers, realtors, everybody involved, because there's money to be made and it happens when it closes. So people tend to focus on how do I get this closed, not how do I do this right. And my background's in process improvement. I've done a lot with that. And one thing we always talk about is you can focus on the conclusion or you can focus on the process. If you focus on the process, you don't have to worry about the conclusion, because if 2 + 2 + 2 is always going to equal 6. That's just how it works. But if you focus on getting to 6, you might do -5 here, 10 here, plus what, now you're getting all wonky and you're not focused on how that equation is put together. And actually what usually happens is you're not very good at being able to control the conclusion either, because you're not focusing on the process. So that's my little comment on that part of it.
Well, no, it's good information from both Ida and Peter. If you're watching, make sure you're double tapping the screen. Share the live if you can. We want to get our volume up and keep our stream very, not buffering, but keeping it clear. We're talking about contingencies today, and as Ida and Peter were talking, I jotted down 3 questions that I have. So the first contingency that we mentioned was an inspection contingency. I have 3 questions, probably geared towards Ida, but Peter, you can jump in too if you want. The first question, Ida, is if sometimes in the competitive real estate market, people waive their right to inspection. They waive the inspection contingency. And without steering you one way or another, I'm curious about your thoughts towards waiving that contingency, Ida.
So waiving the inspection contingency, usually it happens when there is a multiple offer, right? So before I go and show the property, usually what I ask the seller is, hey, do you want to hire a walkthrough inspector? So you can call any inspection company and ask them, hey, do you have a walkthrough inspector? That means that inspector will come along with us as if like he is looking at the property with us. Then he will, skip through and see what's going on the property. So usually we're there for 30 to 45 minutes, an hour sometimes. So that's one thing that I usually recommend them. Another thing is what we usually check is the bigger stuff. For example, we looked at the disclosure. On the disclosure, let's say if the roof been replaced the past 5-6 years, that's a plus, right? And then I usually ask the buyer to check that if there's any permit pulled from the city, like for their furnace, water heater, AC. If those are okay, usually we're okay, but it is a risk not to do inspection. I really, really highly recommend to do inspection regardless. This year, I think we did only one inspection contingency removed. That was actually the one that we closed, 2 weeks ago, Peter? Or 3 weeks ago? That is it. We had 9 offers on that property. So I highly, highly, highly recommend to do inspection.
Well, that's pretty much what I was expecting you to say, but I didn't want to steer you one way or the other. My second and third questions, I'll give them both at the same time, is do all inspections or inspection companies cost the same, or are they differently priced? And then is the quality of the work the same, or are there certain companies that do a better job than other companies?
It is hard to determine. So there are an inspection company that who charge less, they do an amazing job. There are an inspection company who charge you high, but they do mediocre kind of work. So it is hard to find. And I have 2 of them that I work with right now. One of them, actually, they have done my radon mitigation stuff and all our investment property. They did an inspection for me. So if I like them and I know that they do thorough, and that is something that I want. And plus, the inspector that I kind of discriminate for my client, because some of the inspection inspectors, they do not have patience, especially client that who speak a different language. So explaining to them, allow them to record the video, like how to change the furnace and how to do, in Minnesota, because it get cold right now, the weather is like 42 degrees today, how you can do winterize your property, all those specs that they have outside and the, all those stuff, they will take their time to explain. So if those people are not there, I don't need them because my buyer's paying them, right? So if you get paid, you have to take a time to explain what it needs to whom, to the buyer. Because, and the other thing is, like, some of the inspectors, they might inspection company, they might be cheaper, but when you wanted to call them, when we do the inspection contingency, when we write what we wanted to fix, and sometimes the seller will come and say, hey, this thing is going to cost this much and I'm not going to fix. And we wanted to know what are the important items that we need to ask, the high expensive items. Sometimes you cannot get a hold of them. So because of that, I tell them, hey, read the review, interview them, how they do what they do, and then make a choice. So I have 2, I usually recommend them. Some of them, they will give you the report right there while you're there. As soon as you pay them, they give it to you. Some of them, they wait 24 to 48 hours. Mind you, if you have a contingency within 3 days, and that means there is no way that you have to extend that contingency. And the seller might not going to be agree even to sign that contingency again to extend it, the inspection time. So that's what I always say. Hey, when you call them, ask. Sometimes when I send them, they were like, no, I wanted to have my own inspection company. Sure. So I want you to ask them, like, how soon they give you the report and this and that and this. So then they take that risk to get through those things. So yeah, so an inspection in Minnesota, there is difference. Like we do an actual regular inspection. And in addition, if the buyer wants, they can do radon gas inspection. And then there is, what do you call them? The sewer system inspection. So because of why, if it is an older property, the tree might went into one of the line of the water line or the sewer line, it might be broke. So if they purchase that property, they know that it is broke at them, after they purchase it, then it costs a lot of money. So those are the stuff that I usually want them to know, those parts. But yeah, it depends. Some of them, they can be $600, and majority of them, they charge by square footage. In Minnesota, I'm not for sure the other state. But if you're in a different state, you can ask, hey, which one is good and which one is not.
Awesome stuff, Ida. Nick, let me just jump in for a second. And then, if I remember right, there's two main types of inspections, which is the one you've been talking about. And there's also like you can do a more invasive sewer one where they put something down there to see how the pipe's actually doing what you're talking about. So if the roots are in there, you have to pay extra for that, is my understanding. But when I bought my house, that didn't really apply, so we didn't have to worry about it. Yep. But that's something you can also pay for. I know people that have just done it because they want the peace of mind for it. Mm-hmm. And the other inspection type, or main inspection type, is that's non-invasive, so they're walking through the house, like you said. And then there's also invasive testing, which the seller has to agree to, obviously, just like everything. But then they can cut out holes in the wall. They can go and break, not break stuff, but I think the biggest thing is cutting holes in walls to check wiring and pipes and that type of thing. But in those situations, those are much more expensive, if I remember right. And also, you have to pay to fix the house if you don't end up buying it. Usually, again, everything can be negotiated. But is that correct? Am I missing anything there?
In Minnesota, they don't allow you to do that unless if it is really there is an issue. Like, for example, with our friend our partner who I worked with in the past, there was a property, there was a condo in Eden Prairie. We put an offer, got accepted. So when the inspector did inspection on the living room, the whole wall was wet. You cannot even tell. So with that, they allow us to cut it to try to find where the water coming from. And because it's under an association, we just walked away from that deal. But the seller allows the buyer inspector to check that kind of stuff. It would be cheaper for him to, someone to figure it out for him. But beside that, on our purchase agreement, it shows that the seller is not allowed, even as some of them, they sit in as a chemistry thing, they check the water, how hard it is, and this and that. They don't allow you to do those kind of stuff, but they will allow you to use the stick to check how hard it is, the water. Okay. And the other one that usually it won't happen unless if you live in a farm like Mr. Peter, the septic tank. We used to have that when I was in Atlanta. It's a new development. They do not have a sewer system, so they have a septic tank. And there is well. Back in the days, you roll the water, you get it from in the ground. Most of the places now, because the city has the water line and we don't see it as much, most of them, they are sealed, but the seller has to provide us if there's a septic tank or if there is any well stuff. Those are the contingency as well, by the way. Another thing that I wanted to add on, let's say if the seller agrees to fix all those items that the buyer requested, and the seller end up not fix the property And when the buyer do the walkthrough, if those things is not done, the buyer usually have a right to walk away from that deal. I had a phone call yesterday. Someone from Virginia who's purchasing the property, they told her that they would be fixing. They even extended her contract. She might be in here too, because we talked about that because she was one of our audience on Sunday. And when she did the walkthrough with her agent, those items were just getting fixed. So at that time, she decided not to even deal with it, because she does not know that if this thing is going to be done, they're professionally done. So one thing I can recommend you, what I do when I do my inspection contingency amendment, I usually say the seller agrees to provide me all the invoice and everything paid 10 days before closing. So, but then that will show me what? I have all the evidence on my hand, knowing that everything what we requested, it is done. So when I go there for walkthrough, I check every single thing that what they say that they done. And also, especially with the furnace and AC, they say that they fix it or they do tune-ups. Sometimes they don't put anything that if there is anything wrong with those items, I usually call the company and ask, hey, what else did you find? Do you know if anything is going on? Or sometimes they will tell me, oh yeah, the furnace is leaking a little carbon monoxide. Really? So that means that furnace what? It needs to be replaced. Those little carbon monoxide, it doesn't smell anything. It can kill you or will do something harm in your health, for your health. So because of that, and plus the expenses of, replacing the furnace, that's another craziness. So those are the stuff that I wanted to mention, because we were hammering like, hey, the agent has to do this, the agent has to do that, and the buyer has to do this. But the seller, if you are a seller, what the buyer requested for you to fix, you are responsible to fix those items. If you don't, the buyer can walk away from the deal, and you still have responsibility to pay back the earnest money instead of Minnesota and Amara. I'm not talking about other states. I think most of them are the same. And also, the buyer can go after you for an issue like being homeless. They probably give their apartment notice, and they have to move out from their apartment. It might be in 2 days. So they cannot find a place, so they have to stay in the hotel. They have to put their furniture and all that in storage. All that expense, you as a seller will be responsible. So we just need to push and pull this thing. It goes on both hands. Not like it's not only the buyer is responsible, the seller has to be responsible as well.
And ultimately, I think that's a very good point, because that's what contingencies are there for.
Yep.
We're not saying this stuff to scare anyone. It's to protect both the buyer and the seller. It's to protect chiefly the buyer financially and the seller from wasting their time. So contingencies are in there to protect you as a buyer or a seller as you go through this process. So I guess for Ida and Peter, we talked a little bit about inspection contingencies and financial contingencies. What are some other common contingencies we see throughout the process, especially for first-time home buyers that may be going through this for the first time?
The other one, it is homeowner association. Okay, so in Minnesota, for the buyer, they give us the homeowner association document. It is almost this thick. Okay. So that paperwork, a lot of people actually review it, the bylaw in the rule or regulation. If there's we have 10 recession period time. The day of that I received that document, I have to forward that information to whom? Usually to my lender. And I do it at the same thing with the buyer. And I want them to get back to me saying that as a stamp, they received it. Okay. So from that day on, for 10 days before we sign the resale documentation, there's a resale doc that they have to sign. I want them to review it. So with that revision time, if they don't agree what the home association says, and they have a right to walk out from that deal. That's another way of going out. So I had a buyer who has like 4 dogs. And for 4 dogs, the 2 of them are like, the 3 of them are like big dogs, but the little one is a Chihuahua. So the homeowner association has a certain weight of dog and a certain limit of dogs. So because of that, they end up walking away from that deal. So that will cover them for them not to lose the earnest money.
Because basically, that situation you're saying, so they put an offer in, didn't know about it, got the HOA docs or the homeowner association docs, and then read that in there and realized, wait a second, I'm gonna have to get rid of my pets if I move in here, or at least 3 of them.
Yep.
So, and for a lot of people have animals. It's like their extended family. So, yeah, and if they hadn't read it and they missed that 10-day period, then they have no way to get their earnest money back.
Exactly.
If they go, outside of that period without looking at all of that. And a lot of times too, your realtor, things like pets, things, random things like that. If you haven't told your realtor that's important to you, again, they should be asking what's important to you, but they're not going to ask you every detail of your life. Like, hey, do you have this size dog? That's probably not a specific question they're going to ask. So that's where, even if you're communicating well, all of those things, you still want to make sure that you're paying attention, because there might be random, seemingly random things like that you never talked about, because what does a dog have to do with buying a house? But that can be a make it or break it situation.
No, absolutely. And, you think about, when you're renting, that you got to worry about if they have dogs or not, but you don't think about that when you go to buy a house. So, thank you, Ida. And the HOA contingency is a big one. I want to talk about one other area. So obviously, as a buyer, you shouldn't have to pay for anything out of pocket before closing, with a couple small exceptions. So you shouldn't be paying your realtor up front. You should never be paying your loan originator up front. If they ever ask for any money up front, run away, report them to the authorities. But there's 2 things that you have to pay for out of pocket when you go through this process. The first being the inspection that we talked about. I think it's incredibly important. I think you should do it with a quality company. Talk to your real estate agent. They should have a decent referral. I know I have companies that I like in Minnesota that I think they do a great job. They get you the report quickly. They talk you through stuff. Important. The other one is the appraisal. And that's the other, out-of-pocket cost that you're going to have before closing. So, Peter, do you want to talk us through appraisal contingencies real quick?
Sure, yeah. So just like inspection, they're looking at the property to see if there's any deficiencies in the actual structure, if there's any things that...
Can I stop you? Can you guys, I've been tapping for almost like 5,000 already. And I need you guys to use your hand to tap the screen and push it to at least 30 to 35,000. I will appreciate it because I keep hearing when Nick was talking, he was cutting it off in and out. So please, there's 35 of you guys here. Please tap at least, 20 times, and I think we'll be able to get somewhere. And I really appreciate you. Then we'll take your question as we go. Sorry, Peter. continue.
No, that's good. Yeah, tap. So that's awesome. But so getting back to a lot of times a question that clients will ask me, I'm sure Ida gets it as well, is what's the difference between the inspection and the appraisal? Like, why am I paying for both of these? Because both of them are around inspections. Like Ida said, usually I think like $400 to $700, depending on the size of the house, that type of thing. Appraisals, depending on the loan type, can be anywhere from about $500, or like the lowest I've seen in, that was a while ago, it was like $450. Usually the low end is like $500. The high end for just a standard appraisal can be like $650. If you're adding other things in there, it could be as high as $900 or $1,000, especially if you're paying a rush fee because you need it immediately or something like that. But the big difference is inspectors are inspecting the property for health and safety and deficiencies and things that might be wrong with the house. The appraiser is not there for the same reason. They will notice those things, but they're there to say, this is what I think, in my professional opinion, this home is worth on the open market. So they come in, they'll look at it, and then they'll give you a report, and it's your report because you'll be paying for it. With one exception, if the lender pays for it and you never reimburse them, they might not give you the report. But usually you pay for that up front. Once it's complete, you'll get a copy of that, and they outline all the reasons why they come to the final number that they come to say why the house is worth $400,000 or why it's only worth $390,000. Let's say you put in an offer, the house is selling for $400,000. You guys agree to $400,000. The appraiser comes back and says the home's only worth $390,000. This is where the appraisal contingency can come back and help you. So now it's $10,000 low. You can walk away at that point and just say, nope, we're not going to buy the house. Usually what the next step is, you talk to Ida. I would make sure Ida's aware, talk to you as a client, let you know that, what it came back at. Like I said, you'll get a copy of that. And then usually you'll talk to Ida and figure out, how do we want to negotiate this with the sellers? And again, everything's negotiable. So you can say, hey, we want you guys to drop to $390,000. Otherwise, we're not buying the house. And if they don't, you walk away, you get your earnest money back, and you don't have to put any extra money towards it. You can agree to still pay $400,000, but make sure you talk to your lender about that, because you're going to have to bring that extra $10,000 to closing, and it won't count towards your down payment. So that's a big thing for a lot of people, because you can't just roll that into your loan. Let's say you're going to put, if you put in a larger down payment, like 10, 20%, maybe even 5%, you might be able to do a lower down payment. So go from 10% to 5%. But the other thing with that is you're also kind of not underwater, but you're paying more than it's worth. So if you pay $400,000, it's only worth $390,000. You're saying to me, this is worth $10,000 more than what it is worth on the open market. And that's fine. Back in COVID days in 2020 to 2022, we saw that all the time. There were people putting offers like $50,000 over asking price in Minnesota. I know down in Texas and California, they were seeing hundreds of thousands of dollars over, since the homes there are worth more and are, sell for a lot more. But just know that when you're doing that, you might be kind of losing money, so to speak. But again, priorities, if it's worth it to you. But again, that appraisal contingency will protect you if it ever comes in low, allow you to negotiate. And if the sellers come back and say, nope, we're only going to drop to $392,000, we're not going to drop to $390,000, then you still have the option there. Okay, do I pay $2,000 more? And that's where Ida would help you negotiate. You guys will let us know on the loan side what you guys negotiated. And just like everything else we've been talking about, it's going to be written on the contract, and everybody's going to sign it saying, okay, we agree to this new price. Or the other aspect of it is they can give you more seller concessions. So if, let's say, they weren't giving you any money back, they could say, we want to keep it at $400,000, but we'll give you 10,000 seller concessions. There, now we'd have to play with the numbers, because you still use that lower number as far as qualifying the loan, down payment, all those things. But that could help pay off your closing costs and lower your closing costs. And then you could put that money towards the down payment to keep the down payment at 10% if that's where you were. So, but that's a big thing. And there are people who waive it once in a while. But in general, I would say it's always a good idea to get an appraisal. Yes, it's $500 to $600 usually, but it's definitely worth it, just like the inspection. So, and remember too, you're paying for those things up front, and there might be an issue that comes up and you kind of lose that money and it's not great, but it's going to save you from a bad investment. So I don't know, Ida, if you have any other thoughts to add to that.
No, I think you said all. I think that's something that I think everybody should know, that there is something that will protect them. And please review your purchase agreement. Please, 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 please. You know, there is another thing that, if you remember, Peter, when you purchased your property, we have easement issue.
Yeah.
You know, the zoning stuff, all that is a sort of contingency. And it is all in your purchase agreement. So one thing that I wanted to clarify, if you are contracted with an agent, if you live in a different state, I cannot help you. You already have a contract. If you call and ask me any kind of advice, I cannot give you any advice, because you are already have a what? A signature that you are binding with your agent. So they made you to sign the exclusive agent agreement. So because of that, any advice that you're looking for, you have to talk to a lawyer. Okay. I wanted to disclose this because I get a bunch of calls on a daily basis and say, hey, I have an agent and I'm doing this, and I'm like, I can't talk to you because you already, and then they get shocked because they called to ask for advice. I cannot give you any advice. One, I'm not a lawyer. I am just a real estate agent, and I am an agent only in Minnesota. So every state, they have the different rules and regulation, especially in New York and New Jersey and all those areas, they have totally different law. So, and if you are not commit with an agent and you want me to help you finding an agent and help you to find, help you to give you, I have like close to 20 to 25 questions that you can interview your agents and all that kind of stuff. I am here to support you before you went on contract with someone. If you're looking for a lender, I, Peter, or Nick, if we know someone in a different state, we will help you to get one. Usually when you get an agent, once you hire an agent, sometimes the agent usually have a lender that they work with. So I want to clarify this thing because I have an early morning call this morning, someone having an issue with some kind of their transaction, and they want me to help them answering some question. They're from Delaware. I cannot answer any question. So to help you go through, hire your agent, interview your agent before you commit. And if you are involved, you can Google. You can Google yourself. You don't need me if you don't need me. You can Google and ask for, hey, what kind of question that I should ask to hire my real estate agent. My lender. These are the stuff that I need you to ask. And one thing I wanted to let you know too, when you ask a question to your lender or to your real estate, if they get mad at you, if they push you, they don't want to answer any question, and if they say that, hey, I don't do, I have heard these things, by the way, the past couple of weeks. Hey, I call so-and-so and I talk to him or her, and they have a down payment assistance, but they don't want to deal with it. Then find someone who can help you to get your down payment assistance. Sometimes, like Peter and Nick, they're not approved all the down payment assistance that Minnesota gives. So they have to apply to get those kind of down payment assistance. They have to apply, they have to get approved. So if the lender has already that, but they don't want, down payment assistance, to be honest, it has a lot of paperwork. It has a lot of paperwork. Sometimes what buyer do is like, they will make you to work hard and help them out to get through that. They will leave you. They'll go to Peter. They will go to Peter, and they don't like Peter, they'll go to Ida. And they don't like Ida, they go to Nick. So if you are not committed to that lender, usually they don't want to do that work. And I don't blame them. It's a lot of work. So just interview your people, understand. And when people say to you, another thing that I wanted to say, oh, I will give you 5.6 interest rate. Come to me. Or you see it online and you get excited, or your coworker, your colleague told you that, hey, if you go to with this lender, we'll give you a lower interest rate. That's a lie. So before we close, we have 20 minutes. I wanted to talk about why the interest rate that I'm getting is different than what Nick is getting or what Peter is getting. As a lender, would you, to wrap up this call, because I know we talked about the contingency. I think we, cooked it and feed this buyer, so this people, our audience, and you guys can listen these things in my YouTube account, Gojo Realty as well. If you go to Ida Tazara or Gojo Realty, they'll find this session that we went through today. But I want you to explain to us, to wrap up our day, because Peter got to do some stuff, and he's busy today. So I wanted to make sure for people to understand, because I keep getting a call, why Peter gave me this interest rate, but people are getting this interest rate. And then when I asked them, hey, how much do you put down? They're like, oh, I'm putting down 3%. Okay. And what is your what's your whatever sell of your property? And they were like, oh, 300 and some thousand. So okay. And I calculated, and they're 3% and 3% closing cost and this and that, and they are offering them by them paying a discount point. So I want you guys to explain to me that why interest rates different from one person to another.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in real quick, and then I'll kick it over to Peter. But one thing I wanted to say in response to what you said, Ida, is if you sign an exclusive, contract with a real estate agent, Ida cannot help you at all, and that's absolutely true. If you're ever worried that you're being ripped off by your mortgage guy or your mortgage company, you can come to someone like us. You can have another mortgage company look at it and say, hey, does this look right to you? Yeah. Because you do not sign an exclusive contract with the loan originator. And please understand, if you ever have questions financially, talk to me, talk to Peter. Even if you don't live in Minnesota, we'll take a quick look at your loan estimate, and we will let you know what you're paying and why you're paying it, and if it's legit or if you are being ripped off, and what questions to ask. So just wanted to throw that out there. And the last piece of contingency as well is there are such a thing called title contingencies, and that has to do with the history of the property. So if you have any questions on title contingencies, we reach out to us in a DM, and we can explain those to you as well, but we just didn't want to leave any little part out. So I'll kick it over to Peter, and he can explain the differences in interest rates and the different loan level pricing adjustments into the different buckets that people fall into, whether it factors in credit score, down payment amounts, loan size, all that stuff. So Peter, take it away.
Yeah, awesome. And quick for Hope, I saw Nick responded to her. So remember, we're talking about Minnesota only when we talk about lawyers. And if I read your question right, you're saying having a lawyer on a property is mandatory. I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. But in general, there are some states, not Minnesota, but where you use real estate attorneys. So that's where lawyers do get involved. So I'm not sure where you are. But like I know New York is one of them where you do have an attorney. New Jersey, I believe, does as well. You want to look up the state you're in or talk to your real estate agent because they'll be able to help you with that. But I just want to clarify, remember, we're talking about Minnesota specifically there. And then, so when it comes to rates, there are a lot of things that influence rates. What you see advertised out there and on, everybody wants to make rates look better or as good as possible because everybody knows that's what clients focus on more than anything. I talked to somebody recently. They're getting a little bit better rate from this budget online lender. I looked them up. They don't, I guess I'm not going to say their name, but the reviews were not good. It looks like they're very, very rigid in what you can and can't do. Very poor service, but they give cheaper rates than most people. So a lot of clients, it looks like, end up going with them because they're like, hey, I want the lowest payment. I'm going to save a few bucks. And then they have a horrible experience buying the house. They have a horrible experience after buying the house, trying to make payments. One of them, the comments on that lender said that for like 6 months, they've been trying to pay down their principal ahead of time. And the lender kept having problems and telling them they can't do it, which is, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think that's legal because you have to be able to pay off your debt when you want to. But they're saying their system's not designed for it. So I don't know what the whole deal is there. But it even said on their website that I looked at, you have to stick with the structured payment. So I don't know if they have a legal agreement or it's only certain states that they can enforce that. But however it was, they lend in Minnesota but the reviews are just horrible. But one thing that we were able to help with is our mortgage insurance was cheaper. So that's, again, why you want to go to somebody that knows what they're doing because they're going to look at the whole picture. And interest rates are one of the most confusing things for clients, even investors. I talk to people that they've bought 5-6 homes. They've been through this process. They think they know a lot, and they do in general. But two things. One, the requirements are always changing. How rates are calculated are always changing. They will be different lender to lender. They will be different right now versus where they were a year ago, even how they're calculated. There were some major updates on the refinance side back in 2023 for conventional loans. As Nick mentioned, they're called loan level pricing adjustments. But your down payment size or how much of the house you have paid off, if it's a refinance, affects your rate. Your credit score obviously does. Your income does. And the type of property does. There's many, and again, depending on where those different numbers are, there can be other things that come into play. Because in general, like let's say you've paid off half of your house and it's your primary residence. You won't, and you go to refinance, you shouldn't really have any loan level pricing adjustments, whether you have 650 credit or 820 credit. If you've only paid off 5% of your house and you go to refinance, you will have a massively different interest rate, like significant. It could be 1% higher, could be even more than 1% higher. If you have like 650 versus 820 credit, just based off the credit score. But again, your income can influence that. If there's something called area medium income, AMI we call it, depending on the area you're in, they stipulate, and you can go look it up on Fannie and Freddie's website and FHA, all the different loan types, what is considered the medium income or the average income in that area. So again, it's going to be very different in New York City than it is in, some random small city in Iowa or Minnesota. Just because the cost of living is less here, you're not going to get paid the same if you're a doctor at a rural hospital in Minnesota versus a doctor in downtown New York City. So those things, and so what, again, all this to say, because I know it's getting kind of long, is you want to work with people who know what they're doing and people you can trust, because they can, this is why you're paying us. You don't pay a guide when you go to a foreign country and then fact check every single detail that they give you. You can, but you're not going to enjoy the trip. You're probably going to miss out on a lot because you spent so much time just double checking what they told you. So, but the other part of that too is your guide isn't going to tell you, no, I'm not telling you where you're going. No, you can't see a map. No, you don't know what it's like. They're not going to hide everything from you. They're going to say, hey, I'm going to take you here. This is, historic landmark. This is where we're going to go tomorrow. You can hike. You can do this and this and this. And they're going to talk. And you might say, I hate hiking. I don't want to go somewhere hiking. I want to go somewhere where I can very minimally walk because I got a bad foot or I just don't like doing that. then they're going to help you figure out the right location to go to. So it goes both ways. They should be open with you, explaining things, but that's how you build that trust. And yeah, fact check a few things randomly. Do a couple spot checks. Wait, is this right? And again, the best way to do that, the easiest way, is ask them. And like Ida was saying, if they react and get defensive and start attacking you, or, oh, what, you don't trust me, da 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 da, red flag. Why do people act like that? Because they're usually guilty. If they're not guilty, they'll just explain it. They won't take it personally, because we do this every day. We know you don't do this every day. It's a huge financial transaction, probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest of your life. So we expect you to ask these questions. And me personally, and I know Ida's the same way, and Nick as well, we like when you ask questions because it shows that you're taking it seriously. I lost a client a couple years ago. He actually just texted me the other day, but he went with the lender who promised him the best rate, all these different things. Sounded like the closing process was decent. They didn't really go over anything. I kept trying to bring up budgeting with him, and can we get a comfortable payment? And did you think about this and this? He didn't like that. So then he just stopped responding to me. Called me I think it was a year or two after he closed. Yeah, it was the next summer. Now he's 3 months behind on his mortgage payment. He got too big of a mortgage, too big of a house. He didn't need it. It was all just, he was chasing and competing with a family member, I believe it was. They're both trying to get a bigger house. Like, just childishness when you're acting like that, because you're putting your own best interest in the back seat and you're putting your ego in the front seat, and that is a great way to fail at life. And so getting back to all of this is, you want to be measured, you want to work with good people, and you don't want to get high on all the sugar and the compliments and people amping you up. You want to be thinking about each step of this process. And getting back to the rates, when you sit down with your loan officer and they come back, well, number one, if they tell you, hey, we got 6.125 interest rate, and they've never looked at your application and never looked at your documents, they're giving you best case scenario. So unless you have like 780 to 800 credit, you have like 25 to 30% down payment, it's a primary home, like all best case scenario, your rate's probably going to end up being higher. Secondly, let's say they look at that and they're, oh, do this and this and this. Look at the numbers that they give you. Ask them if you're buying points. Ask them what your fees look like, so you can be educated and they can explain it to you, because they should be able to explain why behind the what. And that's kind of the whole theme behind all this, whether it's contingencies or the whole process in general, is the why behind the what. And quick, I just wanted to touch on a couple other contingencies that we didn't get to quite yet, but there are title contingencies as well. So if the current owner, or even an owner previous to them, let's say they did like $50,000 worth of work on the house and never paid that loan, and there's a lien on the property, you want to make sure that when you talk to your realtor and title, and the sellers pay that at closing, because somebody's going to have what's called a clear title. So there's other things. I won't go super in depth with title, but there are also title contingencies where you have to have a clear title at closing. And then, there's also ones like the sale of your own home. That's another one. If you're selling and buying and you can't afford both, you can't qualify with both mortgages, your loan officer will put on your pre-approval letter, hey, you got to sell this house before you buy the next one. Your realtor also definitely needs to put that on the purchase agreement. There's a section for that. That way, if you can't sell your house by the time you have to close on the new one, they can't force you to buy it, or sue you for not buying it and performing. And then, I think that's kind of the main ones. I already brought up the easements. That's the other one I was going to bring up. And then on the seller side, you can do what's called a kick-out clause. I don't know if that's been very common in Minnesota recently, but if the buyer has to sell their house and you get another offer, if you put that in there, you can take the new offer that doesn't have any contingencies. And there's also a couple smaller, very kind of one-off ones that I won't go into. But getting back to the rates, it varies person to person, situation to situation. And if somebody makes it sound too simple, or it's just whatever's advertised, ask more questions.
Peter, did you see Hope's question in the chat?
Okay, refinancing. Yep, so we did talk about that last week, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again soon just because it's a big topic right now. So that question, pros and cons of refinancing. Usually there's three main goals. One, paying the least amount of interest over the life of your loan. So that means you're going to pay it off faster and or a lower interest rate. So if you go to like a 30 to a 20 year, or let's say you have 25 years left and you go to a 15-year loan, you usually get a better interest rate for a 15 versus anything. What was that, Ida?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you were waving. Okay. So sometimes a 15-year, usually you'll get a little bit, about a 0.5% better rate than a 20 to 30-year mortgage, or anything, even 16 to 30 years, I'd say. You're going to have a higher payment unless your rate is going down significantly. So if your current rate is 6.5, I'm not 100% sure if that's your current rate or the new one. But the other big thing, and this is the thing that most people look at with refinancing, is lowering their monthly payment, especially with bills being high right now. People are like, hey, I want the lowest monthly payment. So let's say you paid 5 years. You could do another 25-year loan so you don't lose that 5 years, or you could go back to a 30-year. You're going to add 5 years, obviously, but if that helps you get your payment as low as possible, and that's what you need financially, that can also be a great idea. But I won't go into all the other details. Those are the main two, I'd say. But you want to sit down with your loan officer, have them take your application, and then if they're not asking you what your priorities are and they're just assuming you want the lowest payment or the lowest rate, that's a red flag, because the pros and cons are all dependent on your situation.
Yeah.
The person that needs the lowest monthly payment, they're going to pay more over the life of the loan, because you're going to pay more interest, because you're going to take a longer term, because if you pay it off over 30 years versus 20 years or 15, you have more time. The payments are going to be smaller month to month because there's more payments. If you're in a good situation and you want to pay it off as fast as possible, most lenders will go down to like 8 to 10 years if you want to do that. Or you could take a 15 to 30-year mortgage and you could pay extra every month. But then you can pick and choose when you do it. So again, I'm not going to go into all the details just because I could talk about this for like 45 minutes to give you the full rundown. And again, we'll plan to do this soon just because this is becoming a bigger issue right now.
Yeah.
But the easy answer is you want to give an application to your loan officer, maybe talk to them first, get a feel for them to see if they're actually interested in helping you. Most of the big companies, they hire people that are more like call center employees. Their only training is to get you to say yes and to close the deal. So we get offers for training all the time. Hey, we're going to have our senior vice president from this bank come and give you, Peter and Nick, a specialized training, just us. And we're going to teach you how to overcome objections. We're going to teach you how to sell. We're going to teach you how to close the deal every time. The number one theme in loan officer training is not the client. Just point blank. And anybody wants to argue about that, everybody in the industry says, oh no, we put the client first. The client is so important. That's part of the sales pitch. I mean, you're not going to tell somebody you're selling to, hey, you're not important here. I'm going to prioritize myself, because you'll hang up the phone instantly.
Yeah. They're
going to tell you what you want to hear. And that's why you want to check their actions, interview them, see how they respond to your questions. And if they're giving you real full answers and you're spot checking a couple things, hey, can you send me a resource on this? Can you send me something so I can verify this or read more about it? Ask those type of questions, because this industry is full of people who just are there to sell. And we see it all the time. The other thing is they'll put on in your paperwork, they'll help give you a better rate, but you're paying a lot of money for it. And they'll forget to tell you about it, or they'll just run through it really fast. And yeah, you're paying $10,000 for your rate, but this is and aren't you really excited? Wow, you got a 5.875 interest rate. It's like, wait a second, you just said I was paying $10,000 for the rate. Oh yeah, well, I mean that's the. Or they start using really big words and trying to talk around you. No, anybody that's good at this job should be able to explain it to you in ways that you can understand it, whether you're an experienced investor or whether you're a rookie. So. And if you're not getting a good feeling from it, you can, like Nick said, you can always go to somebody else. But your refinance, the easy answer is it's all based off your priorities, which your loan officer should get your application, give you a refinance pre-approval basically, and then say, after interviewing you, okay, you told me these are your top 3 priorities, or this is your number 1 priority, so we're designing it this way for that reason, and it should match up. And if it doesn't, now you got more questions to ask. Maybe there's miscommunication, or maybe they're just trying to put you in that situation because they think that's the one that you're most likely to go with, even though it might not be best for you. So definitely interview, and ask questions. Don't be afraid to look stupid. It's just you and your loan officer, and just, make sure you're informed. Because right now, we're doing refinances too, but I'm seeing a lot of big companies that are refinancing people that should not be refinancing. And last thing, break even. Ask them about your break even point. We're seeing a lot of people right now, their break even point on the refinance is 10 to 20 years. If your break even point is when you truly start saving on the loan. Now, again, if you just need to get your monthly payment as low as possible because things are tight, understandable. But you still want to know when that break even is, because if it's 15 years out, you're probably going to refinance by then. The average loan is like 7 to 9 years. So you're probably going to refinance. You might sell the house before then. So if your break even is 15 years out because you're doing this huge rate buy down, and rates are, nobody knows, but they're supposedly going to keep coming down over the next year or two, and you refinance in a year, you might have just flushed like $10 to $20 to $30,000 down the drain without even realizing it, because your loan officer didn't tell you, because it's not in their best interest to point that out. So even though we're supposed to do what's best for you guys as a client, it's very common. I personally do not trust loan officers at all at their word, because it's highly skewed. Again, everybody will tell you the right thing, but look at the actions and look at their explanations.
Yeah, and so just to put it in simpler terms, so the holy grail that I look at for refinancing is, are you going to have a lower monthly payment, and are you going to have a lower rate? So if you're sitting at 6.5%, if I can get you into the 5s and I can save you a couple $100 in monthly payment, provided that that's your goal, then I'm going to, say, hey, this is probably advantageous for you to do. Because then you're paying less a month, and you're paying less over the life of the loan. So let's just use simple numbers and say if you're saving $200 a month and it costs you $5,000 to do the recast. So you're still not going to hit that break even point, the refinance. You're still not going to hit that break even point until 2 years into making the payments, because you're saving $200 a month, 12 months in a year. You do the math, and it's still going to be 2 years and some change before you save at least $5,000 that it costs you to do the refinance. So that's the break-even point that Peter's talking about. Now, if you keep those loan terms for the life of the loan, yes, you're going to be paying less in interest than you would at 6.5% on a higher payment. But again, that's where you have to look. Are we going to refinance this again, or is this the final time we're refinancing it? How long is my break-even point, and is it valuable for me? So that's kind of how we look at it. So if you're getting a lower rate and a lower payment, a lot of times that's going to be beneficial. But again, it depends on your specific situation. How many years have you been paying on this loan? If you're down to 22 years left and you're going back to a 30, then you might, end up you might have, immediate savings, but not long-term savings. So, but again, if you have those questions, we love it when people put questions in the chat and ask it. We have a lot of knowledge, and so we want to touch on the topics that matter the most to each and every one of you. So I know we got to wrap things up here, Ida.
No, we're good. No, we're good. Me and you, we can stay for a little while. Might be 10, 15 minutes. I think Peter has to exit. I don't know if Nick has to go somewhere. But
Nick has to get on that call too.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Then I can answer those questions. Whatever question that you guys have, I will stay for a little while. Might be 10, 15 minutes. You guys are welcome to come and ask any question. But I want you two guys to send me or to send them question that you wanted to be as a subject that we can talk about. The reason that we picked this contingency, a lot of people, they don't know what they are signing off. I did not know when I signed my purchase agreement when we purchased the first house. we have some ideas, but really not in depth. Now we have the social media that can teach, that we can teach our people, whomever, by the way, this is not only immigrant, by the way. This is even people that were born and raised in the US don't know about these things. It is not only like us. So I want you to know these things, because I don't want you to feel like, hey, because I don't speak the language, that's why I am getting scammed, or I'm just signing it because I don't want to ask questions. This is not about only not only the purchase agreement. I'm talking about every single document that you sign. You are responsible for that signature. So because of that, ask what you're signing for. Any paperwork that you sign, when you go to Jump and Jack place, when you take your kids, you have to sign a waiver paperwork. What does that waiver say? Do you understand what you're signing? It is scary when I sign a shoot. If my child is like bust his head, and who's responsible? Me. If something happened to me. So we need to know what we're signing for. Anything that we sign, we have to know exactly what we're signing. Ask question. If you don't understand, you can ask the loan officer or your real estate agent if they can find you a translator, or if you know someone that who can help you to translate, get that. I do that almost 90% of my clients. Even if they speak English, the language, all the stuff we have to explain to them by scenario and by how this will affect them, how it's going to help them out, how it's going to do this and do that. So ask question. Please do not sign any document without reviewing with your agent or with your loan officer, with the title company, inspector. Anyone that you are signing a document, you are responsible. It does not matter. You're going to be responsible. So read, understand, acknowledge what is there, what is not. Don't trust everyone. That's what I will say. So with that said, I want you guys to introduce yourself, who you are. If you guys never met us, we are here every Wednesday in English and every Sunday evening in Amharic. We learn about real estate, investing, how you can rent your property, how you can do this, what is that, what is this, anything about real estate we talk about. And that's like my, what do you call it? Bread and butter kind of a thing. And that's what I eat every day. That's what I talk about every day. We go through a lot of different stuff. I am a team lead myself. I have agents under me who I teach, mentor, and they work with Peter and Nick. Some of them work with another lender. They understand the situation, what's going on. Any new things that pop in, if I don't know it, Peter knows it. If Peter does not know it, Nick knows it. If nobody knows it, we'll go to a broker. I have a broker that I can go and ask questions. We have hire people that we can ask questions. So have an agent who have those, roots that they can go.
Expertise.
Exactly. Yep. So Peter, say who you are and what you do and how you do it. And then we go to Nick, and then I will wrap up.
Yep. Yeah. And I'll just answer Hope's last question. But yeah, you should definitely join us when we talk about this next refinancing again. Or you can message me too, or Nick. But the recast, basically you take a chunk of money and put it towards your current balance. You usually pay a processing fee of about $150 to $300, depending on the lender. And then they will lower your monthly payment based off the new balance. So you do have to put down a significant amount of money to save a lot, where the refinance is a whole new loan. A recast, you're just paying down the balance, and then they're recalculating the monthly payment based off that new lower balance. So hopefully that answers your question. But yep, so, and I'd say that is a good option if refinancing isn't.
then that's another good option. If you have money in your bank and you want to get a lower monthly payment, and you can ask your current loan servicer to look at what that would look like, or you can use some free tools like it. But anyways, I'm Peter with Custom Made Mortgages. Thank you for joining us. All of this is for education only. These are not quotes. Call us if you want an official quote, and have a wonderful Wednesday.
Thank you so much for coming, Peter.
Thanks for having me.
Hey everybody, I'm Nick of Custom Made Mortgages, loan originator in the state of Minnesota. And I just wanted to remind you guys, if you ever do make either a recast payment or additional payments, you would make sure to specify that you wanted to go towards your principal, because that verbiage is required, and you definitely want to make sure that you're not making payment towards the interest. So, but anyways, so I'm a loan originator in the state of Minnesota. Custom Made Mortgages, we've been in business. It's our 4th year in business now, Peter? 3rd year?
What's that?
This is our 3rd or 4th year in business now.
Technically, we opened March 2022, so 3.5.
Heading to 4 years.
Yeah. 4 years, yeah. Well, yeah, so I've been doing this, since the inception of the business, and working with Ida. We love doing these TikTok lives, love helping all clients, in particular first-time home buyers. We love telling people that they can buy a home when other people have told them that they can't afford it. So that's kind of our passion and what drives us. So appreciate you having us on, Ida, and we'll see everybody next Wednesday.
Yep. Thank you so much for both of you guys. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Peter, for coming, because we need this information that from the expertise, because people ask me, what is this? And I'm like, I'm not a loan officer, so I can't tell you. So anything that you get from us, I need you to research it, understand the whole process. Just, yes, we are the expert. Yes, we do this thing day in, day out. But I need you to, this is an information. You take it, you research it, and have something with it. So I will stay a little bit longer online. If you guys have any question, I will answer, and you guys can come up on the stage. If you guys wanted to leave, you guys can go ahead and do that. I really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Ida. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Perfect. If you guys have any question, you guys are welcome. We can speak in Amharic and we can speak in English. It does not matter to me. I am here to answer any question that you guys have. You let me know. You guys can come in. And if I don't hear anything, and if I didn't see anything, then I will shut down and gone. So you guys have any question? Mamtat ትችላላችሁ stage ላይ. Then we can answer any question. So ለማታውቁኝ እኔ አይዳ ተዘራ እባላለሁኝ. I am a local real estate agent በሚኒሶታ ውስጥ። ዛሬ ተማርናቸው ብዙዎቹ ስለ contingency ነው፣ ስለ financial contingency, inspection contingency, title, all that good stuff. So if you have ምንም አይነት ጥያቄ ካላችሁ እስካሁን ደስ ያልተነጋገርንበት, you guys are welcome to come and ask question. ግን ነው ጥያቄ የለንም አይዳዬ በቃ አንቺም ዘግተሽ ስራሽ ግቢ የምትሉኝ ከሆነ ደግሞ I would love to do that, and I will do that. So let me know. እሺ ጥያቄ ካላችሁ I'm here. Like አንድ ደቂቃ ጠብቃችሁና ጥያቄ ከሌላችሁ wrap it up. So ብዙዎቹ የተነጋገርነው ዛሬ ስለ purchase agreementታችሁ ላይ ስልክ ገብቶብኝ ነበር። purchase agreementታችሁ ላይ ምንድነው የምታደርጉት? ምን አይነት ነገሮች ነው? Thank you በጣም ኢቫና ታፕ ስታደርጉም የነበራችሁ ሰዎች ዩቲዩብ ላይ በጣም አመሰግናችኋለሁኝ። ብዙዎቹን ነገሮች ስለማናቃቸው እንዴት ብለን የምንማማረው የሚባለው ደረጃ ላይ ነው እና ያለነው። ዩቲዩብ አካውንት አለኝ። ዩቲዩብ አካውንቱ ላይ መግባት ትችላላችሁ። ጎጆ ሪልቲ ይባላል ዩቲዩብ አካውንቴ ውስጥ ዛሬ የተማርነውን ነገር for almost an hour 45 minutes እዛ ላይ ገብቷል። So ለማታውቁኝ እኔ አይዳ ተዘራ እባላለሁኝ። I am your local real estate agent በሚኒሶታ ውስጥ and plus team lead ነኝ and property like the residential and commercial ሰራለሁኝ። Not only that, property manage አደርጋለሁ። So any further information ምንም አይነት ስለ real estate ከፈለጋችሁ reach out ልታደርጉኝ ትችላላችሁ። any state ብትሆኑ we have a network አለን እነሱ ጋር ልናገናኛችሁ እንችላለን። Okay? ይሄ ኢንፎርሜሽን ጥሩ ሆኖ ከታያችሁ please share አድርጉት ለማያውቁ ሰዎች አስተምሩልን እንላለን። ተረፈ መልካም ቀን።